press conference is basically when multiple forms of media get together to interview someone who's newsworthy or someone, I guess, who we want to find out something about. In football terms, that may be a player, it may be a coach from a team, it may be someone who's in the news, an administrator or something along those lines. Being prepared is pretty important. It's really good to know some background on your subject. If it's a player, how many goals have they scored this season, how well have they been playing, how old they are, previous clubs. Perhaps they're coming up against a club that they've played for before. These are things that are very important to know before the press conference starts because they give you ammunition for the questions that you want to ask. In Australia, again, we tend to be a little more informal with these sort of things. Normally, we know roughly who the media outlets are and the questions are just asked directly to the talent. There's not usually an order to these sort of things. They often take care of themselves. There's usually the talent answers one question, the question finishes, there's a little bit of a lull, someone else will ask another question. And often with a press conference, there's a natural flow to it. If the person being interviewed follows a certain topic, says something that needs expanding on, the next journalist or the same journalist will ask a question following on from that question. So it is very important to listen to what the talent is actually saying before you ask your next question. The absolute key in asking questions in a press conference is ask the questions that people want to know. It's pretty simple. What do you want to know about the person who's being interviewed? And usually what you want to know about the person being interviewed is what everyone else wants to know about the person being interviewed. That is very important. It's a great skill, and often it is actually overlooked by a lot of people, that what the public want to know about a person should be the top priority in your head when you are asking questions. The reality is you are trying to do a job. The person answering the questions is trying to do a job too, and it's always very important to maintain a level of professionalism. When it comes to other journalists, try not to ask questions over the top of other journalists. That's a little bit of a skill in itself, but most of the time if you do watch a press conference, you'll find it doesn't happen. The reason being because most of the journalists have been to a lot of press conferences and they know the right time to ask a question. There's usually a little bit of a lull in the conversation, a little bit of a lull in the answer, or the talent finishes their answer and then the person asks. So it's pretty important not to try and cut off other journalists or cut off the talent while they're asking questions. Ask with a clear voice. Make sure that you pronounce everything properly so there's no grey area, so the person that you're asking the question to understands what you're saying, understands the context of your question, and understands exactly what it is that you want to know. That's pretty important.
The role of a player at a press conference is to answer the questions that are presented to them by the media.
A player's role at a press conference is to best bridge the gap between the players and the fans in order to answer the questions fielded by the media.
A player should prepare for a press conference by being calm, being composed, and taking in what the question is and never really reacting in a negative way.
The player should prepare for the press conference by speaking to the media manager and finding out what questions are going to be asked, so you're mentally prepared.
A player should conduct themselves at a press conference by remaining positive despite the result. Try and keep your emotions out of it as best you can.
A player should conduct themselves at a press conference by good body language, calmness, and the right attitude towards the questions that are being asked.
The most difficult part about being asked questions at a press conference is answering the questions that you don't want to answer. And I'm sure that involves the other team and probably them scoring on you, or whatever the result may be, a tough call by the ref. But again, respect can never be not in the answer that you give, because at all times you're representing your club.
You show respect to media in a press conference by they have a job there to do, just like you have to do, and you've got to respect that they're going to ask questions that you might not agree with, but that's their job and you've got to answer accordingly.
Respect is shown at a press conference to the fans by doing your best to give an honest explanation as to what happened at the event.
Respect is shown to the fans at a press conference by being mindful of your answers, because your words essentially paint the colors of the club.
You show respect to the opposition at a press conference by you know, obviously being respectful in your answers towards things that have happened in the game. Obviously, sometimes there's heated moments in a game, and you know, after a game, it's done and dusted, and it's fine to give your opinion on certain things in certain matters, but conduct yourself in a professional manner that represents the club again and yourself.
Respect is shown at a press conference to the opposition by leaving attitude out of it and just discussing the game in a polite way.
Respect is shown to the opposition at a press conference by acknowledging their effort they put into the game, because it is the same effort that you put in, and in a competition, someone has to lose, so there's no need to be disrespectful to the opposition.